Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, hockey fans. It is a chilly little 7 degrees Celsius, 45 degrees Fahrenheit, in a gray and rainy Bridgewater, Nova Scotia today. My name is Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, and welcome to the Saturday, May 14th edition of the Bridgewater's Finest 2016 NHL Playoffs podcast. So we only had the one game of NHL action in the league last night. It was Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Pittsburgh Penguins. That game in Pittsburgh as the Penguins play host. And Tampa Bay wins the game by the exact score that I said they would, a score of 3-1. Shots in this game were 35-20 for the hometown Penguins. Tampa Bay leads this series 1-0, but it certainly didn't go the way I wanted it to. I thought it would go, or the way that Tampa Bay wanted it to go. Despite being outshot 35-20, it is Tampa Bay that gets the first couple of really good chances in this game. Matt Murray put to the test early. He started for the Penguins, and he actually played rather well. Matt Murray gets tested by a Victor Hedman slap shot that kind of knuckles in on him. He bears down and he makes the save. He also makes a nice save on an Andre Palat wrist shot early, Matt Murray getting into his groove. We go ahead a little bit here in the first period, and Ryan Callahan, a very ugly boarding major on Chris Letang. It's one of those hits you want to get out of the game. It certainly was not intentional. Anybody that looks at that hit, it wasn't an intent to injure or anything like that. Chris Letang left the game. He went to the quiet room. He would return later in the first period, and seems like he's all right. I'm sure he was reevaluated again after the game. On that 5-minute Pittsburgh power play, they throw 10 shot attempts towards the net at Ben Bishop. 4 of them get through 4 shots. They get 5 more shots just after that, all of those saved by Ben Bishop. He's standing tall. He's playing well. We go to the middle of the first period now, and there's a major physical upswing in this game for both teams. They both start throwing the body. Hits at this point were 10-8 in favor of the Lightning. Still no scoring, but we skip ahead to 12:25 into the first period, and we find what will probably be the major storyline of this series. Ben Bishop goes down with a non-contact leg injury, and those are some of the most chilling words that you can possibly hear if you're a sports team. Non-contact leg injury. 9 times out of 10, what that means is a torn ligament or some kind of severe damage to a ligament. Ben Bishop goes down. He was carted off the ice. He didn't leave the ice. He was carted off the ice. The last thing that you want to see if you're a Tampa Bay Lightning fan. Now, the x-rays on Ben Bishop later did come back negative. So that could be a good thing. That could be a bad thing. We don't know. We won't know until there's an official release. But Ben Bishop is out. Andrei Vasilevskiy steps in for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and he is really put to the test in this game. However, he comes into the game, it's a definite energy boost for the Lightning. Now they want to win this thing. They want to win it for Ben Bishop. They want to give him a chance to get healthy and get back. Same for Stralman, same for Stamkos. They take that energy boost, and they get on the board first. 18:46 into the first period, last 2 minutes. Tampa Bay gets on the board. It's Alex Killorn. It's his 4th goal of the playoffs. I know Coach Cooper is very, very high on Alex Killorn. Victor Hedman draws the only assist on that one, and it was a Hail Mary pass from Victor Hedman from behind his own net up to Killorn at the offensive blue line. He makes a play to get a partial breakaway, takes it to the backhand, and just barely tucks it between the knees of Matt Murray. It is now 1-0 Tampa Bay, and that's exactly what they wanted after seeing that injury. What they don't want to see right after that injury and after that goal, though, is yet another injury. The last minute of the first period, Chris Kunitz comes in and lays a hit on Tyler Johnson. The hit goes knee on knee, and Tyler Johnson leaves the game. He would not return. Now, a hit like that, it's not like it was intentional, because Tyler Johnson tries to get out of the way of Chris Kunitz. So it was Johnson trying to get out of the way. I think it was just an unfortunate result of, I think if Johnson would have absorbed the hit, then I don't think something like this would have happened. It would have hurt, obviously, but something like this wouldn't have happened where it ends up knee on knee. Tyler Johnson's hurt. Tyler Johnson leaves the game. Lightning, though, head into the second period with that 1-0 lead, and early on in the second, Evgeny Malkin takes a bad hooking penalty on Victor Hedman as the Lightning are pressuring their net, and just 2:33 into the second period, Tampa Bay has doubled their lead on the power play. It's Ondrej Palat. It's his third goal of these playoffs. Val Filppula and Jason Garrison draw the assists on this one. It's just a nice snapshot from Filppula. Palat is right there for a big juicy rebound into an open net. He tucks it home. Palat makes it 2-0 for Tampa Bay, spitting in the face of adversity. We got a back and forth second period going here, both teams getting some chances. Nestorov takes a hooking penalty on Connor Sheary. Vasilevsky comes up huge on a Malkin to Crosby one-timer on the power play. Vasilevsky comes across post to post to make the save. Unfortunately for Penguins fans, Matt Cullen takes a post-power play momentum-killing tripping penalty. Luckily, no damage on the subsequent Tampa Bay Lightning power play. This game remaining physical on both sides, both teams throwing hits, and it's kind of interesting because you got two pretty small teams here, because you can look at the previous playoff series for both of these teams. It was the opposing team kind of trying to bully them, kind of trying to outmuscle them. It didn't work out. Obviously, the skill kind of shone through. Now you've got a series that is literally, it's skill on skill. There are no like real huge players on either side, aside from like Victor Hedman, who's a pretty big guy. But I think you're going to see a lot of physicality in this series, because I don't think either team feels like the other team can bully them. So I think you're going to see, I think this is going to be a very physical series. We may see another injury or two, unfortunately, just kind of the nature of it. I think this is going to be a very, very physical series. The Lightning get some more sustained pressure again off of that physicality, and 18:25 into the second period, almost last minute and a half, the Lightning score again. It's Jonathan Drouin, his second goal, just his second goal of these playoffs. Palat and Filppula drawing the assists, the second point of the night for both of them. Lightning get a 3-on-2 down the ice off of a turnover from, I think it was Brian Dumoulin. So they get the turnover. Lightning get an odd man rush. Palat puts it across to Drouin, and that pretty little Jonathan Drouin one-timer that I watched for years in Halifax, he gets it done. He beats Matt Murray. It is now 3-0 Tampa Bay, the exact kind of game that you want on the road to kick off a series. The Lightning, however, cannot get out of the second period unscathed. Victor Hedman takes a tripping penalty on Connor Sheary. That's the second major drawn penalty for Connor Sheary, so he's doing his job up there. And 19:05, last minute of the second period, the Penguins on the power play, they convert. Patrick Hornqvist, his sixth goal of these playoffs. Crosby and Kessel draw the assists on the power play. They just cycle the puck around the boards. Kessel had an opportunity for a redirect. Didn't happen. Puck keeps going around. Sidney Crosby with this beautiful, like, I can't understand the people that don't love to watch Sidney Crosby play hockey. I don't get it. I don't understand. You think he's a crybaby, whatever. He's one of the greatest players that I've ever seen. Anywho, Crosby with this beautiful drop pass behind him, between his skates, to Hornqvist, who dangles it just a little bit and then snaps it home behind Vasilevsky. The first goal given up by Vasilevsky in this game. Pittsburgh now down just 3-1. Vasilevsky would continue to be tested into the third period, which opens up with quite a bit of Pittsburgh pressure. Vasilevsky makes 5 big saves inside the first 4 minutes of the third period. Physicality continuing here, and Pittsburgh continuing to generate off of it. Vasilevsky then turns away Evgeny Malkin and makes 2 big saves on Eric Fehr. He is stepping up, and he is proving the Lightning's confidence in him to be well-founded. Down at the other end, not to be outdone, Brian Boyle has a couple of great scoring chances. He's got a great one, a snapshot and a tip-in that both get saved by Matt Murray. 2 excellent saves by Matt Murray, who has played unbelievably in these playoffs. Ondrej Palat takes a boarding penalty against Brian Dumoulin late in the third period. This is Pittsburgh's best chance to get back into this thing and draw it to within 1. They get 3 chances. Vasilevsky keeps the puck out, including a great save on a tip-in from Phil Kessel. The Lightning are holding the fort barely defensively. Pittsburgh's got this last-second scramble. The puck's going around. It's 2 or 3 more great saves by Vasilevsky to end the game. The puck stays out. It's a perfect prediction for Bridgewater's Finest. Tampa Bay beats Pittsburgh 3-1. Exactly like I said they would, to take a 1-0 lead on the road, take home ice advantage away from the Penguins. That's a great win for the Lightning, and we can only hope for the best for both Ben Bishop and Tyler Johnson. No real significant pieces of news coming out of the league overnight, so it's time to get right into the surprise. Now, I promised you guys that we were going to have a surprise because where there was only one game last night and there's no game tonight, so we don't have any game to tee up. We've already given our predictions. What else is there to do? Well, think about it. After the playoffs are over, what's the next big thing? The next big thing that you look forward to. Before you get to free agency on July 1st, you have the NHL Entry Draft. So why don't we do a little Bridgewater's Finest mock draft action? So what I've done is I've mock drafted my prediction for the top 10 of the first round. So your first 10 picks of the first round, these are your big guns. And I went through with the top 10 of the upcoming draft and made my predictions for who I think is going to go where and why I think they're going to go there. Now, my choices come with certain assumptions. And we're going to just sort of lay those out right now before we get into the actual picks. You're assuming, obviously, no injuries. No on-ice injuries, no weird off-ice, kind of freak accident sort of things. So you're assuming no injuries. You're also assuming that none of these picks get traded. Editor's note, I think there are several of these picks that have at least a moderate chance to get traded, if not a great chance to get traded. So I think there will be trades inside the top 10 of the draft, but we're running on the assumption that none of these picks get traded. And I guess we're also running on the, it would be an assumption. It would be like assumption 2.5 or 2B or whatever. We're assuming that if a player is going to get picked in the top 10, he's at least got a shot, if not a really good shot, to crack his team's roster for next season. Now, a lot of these players are not going to crack their team's roster. First round picks do not necessarily crack their team's roster the year after they're drafted. Sometimes it takes a little while, but we're running on the assumption of no injuries, no trades, and that these players would likely, or at least have a chance, to crack their team's roster for 2016-2017. Got it? Good. Let's do this. Top 10, Bridgewater's Finest mock draft, top 10 of round 1. Here is the order, just in case you don't remember it. Number 1, we've got Toronto. They won the draft lottery. They tanked all season. This is what they wanted. This is what they played for. So this is what they got. Toronto at number 1. We've got Winnipeg as a surprise number 2, just a 7.5% chance to win the first overall pick, less than 10% to get the second, and they nailed it. So we got Winnipeg at number 2. We've got Columbus at number 3. Edmonton dropped down to 4. Vancouver's at 5. Calgary's at 6. Arizona's at 7. Buffalo's at 8. Montreal is at 9. And Colorado rounds out the top 10. So let's start right at the top. Let's start with what you all paid for. Number 1, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, the Leafs this past season, they had the 3rd lowest goals for per game average in the league, as well as the 2nd lowest power play percentage. First of all, I don't think there's any chance whatsoever that Toronto trades this pick. 0. This is what they played for all year. There's not a GM in hockey that would have the balls to trade this pick. Lou is as close as you could possibly get, but even Lou does not have the balls to trade this pick. So, 0% chance that this pick gets traded. And let's be honest, this draft class has been Austin Matthews' draft class to lose. He hasn't done anything to lose it. If anything, he's justified and validated exactly why he's been number 1 pretty well from the outset. With the number 1 overall pick in the 2016 NHL Entry Draft, the Toronto Maple Leafs, I believe, will select Austin Matthews, center from Zurich of the Swiss A-League. Let's face it, Anze Kopitar-style franchise centers don't come along every day. Austin Matthews can get into this lineup immediately. He can help that goals for per game average. He can help that power play percentage. He can do everything that Toronto needs him to do right away. You take Austin Matthews, zero question about it. It's kind of crazy that a team that has the depth and the well-roundedness of the Winnipeg Jets are picking number 2 in this draft, but they are, and it's a great position for them to be in. The Jets, the only category as a team that the Jets finished in the bottom 5, the only sort of notable category, is the fact that they had the worst power play in the league this year. The power play was anemic all season. I don't think there's a great chance that Winnipeg would consider trading this pick. I'm going to say it's a low chance. They would have to be a great package to come by. But I mean, like I say, Winnipeg's already crazy deep, and they've got a good team already. So I don't think there's really a package that's going to come along unless there's maybe something with an elite goaltending prospect or something like that. But it would have to be a really great package for Winnipeg to consider trading this pick. With the second overall pick, the Winnipeg Jets, I believe, will select Patrick Laine, right wing from Tappara of SM Liga. He can step in immediately and help that power play. Again, it's the only category that Winnipeg finished in the bottom 5. So that should be sort of one of their primary concerns going into this offseason, is getting their special teams under control. Patrick Laine can step right in on a second power play unit, and he can really help that team. I like them to take Laine, number 2 overall. The third overall pick again goes to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, the Blue Jackets in this past season had the second highest goals against per game, as well as the 4th most shots against per game. What this tells me is that it's probably best for Columbus to go on the defensive side of things, except for the fact that they're out of position to go on defense. Your best defensive prospects, I mean, look, there's going to be a couple of defensemen that I've got going at the tail end of this top 10, but I don't think you take any of those defensemen in the top 3. I don't think you can justify taking a defenseman in the top 3 of this draft class. Therefore, I think there's at least a moderate chance that Columbus trades this pick. Now, it's hard to justify trading a pick when you have such great high top end talent in the draft class. This is a very good draft class, so it's going to be hard to convince a fan base that it's a smart idea to trade the third overall pick. But based on team need, there's at least a moderate chance that I think they do that. However, considering the chance, and probably a fairly good chance, that Columbus does keep the pick, I don't think they can go defenseman. And I like going just slightly off the board. I don't like another Finn to go in this position. With the third overall pick, the Columbus Blue Jackets, I believe, will draft Pierre-Luc Dubois, left winger from the Cape Breton Screaming Eagles of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. Look, he's not going to help you defensively. He's not going to be a great boon to your defensive side of things, but he's got huge upside. I feel that he's outplayed Jesse Puljujarvi just based on the eye test, really. I like Dubois' game better than I like Puljujarvi's game. And Columbus has a history of drafting out of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, including drafting high out of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. In 16 drafts since the team was founded in Columbus, 16 drafts, they've taken 18 players out of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, including 4 inside the first round. You're looking at guys like Pascal Leclerc. So they have a history of looking to the Quebec League, and I think they'll do it again. I like them to go Pierre-Luc Dubois over Jesse Puljujarvi for the number 3 overall pick. The number 4 overall pick belongs to the Edmonton Oilers. Now, the Oilers are just perpetually in positions like this where they get high draft picks, and it just seems like it's been never ending for them for the last what feels like a decade. The Oilers gave up the 4th highest goals against per game, as well as the 5th most shots against per game. And just the same as Columbus, where they should draft on the defensive side of things, they're not in position to do that. I don't think they can justify, with the players that are at the top end, drafting on the defensive side of the puck. Therefore, and with the news, obviously, that they've already talked to teams about this pick, I think there is a very high chance that this is the pick that gets traded. I could see them going to like a Montreal or to, let's say, a Buffalo. Teams that need big offensive jump, like Eastern Conference teams that need a big jump in offense. Those are teams that I could see being interested in this 4th overall pick. So I think there's a very high chance, if not even a likelihood, that this pick gets traded prior to or at the draft. Now, if we consider the possibility that this pick does not get traded, given that Jesse Puljujarvi did not go 3rd, I don't think there's an argument to be made that he would not go 4th. So with the 4th overall pick, the Edmonton Oilers, I believe, will select Jesse Puljujarvi, right winger from Karpat of SM Liga. Now, what this does do, because you're thinking, oh my God, great, another forward. But what this does do is they at least draft a winger. Because if the Oilers need anything in terms of forwards, they need a winger. They don't need a center. In fact, they've got too many centers. And this is a team that is likely to trade Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Doing this and getting Jesse Puljujarvi opens the door more easily to trading Nail Yakupov. Because really, what's the drop between those two players? Honestly, I don't see very much. I have never been impressed by Nail Yakupov, really ever. So I don't think there's a huge drop-off between Yakupov and Puljujarvi. Puljujarvi can slot right into that position right there. He's played against men for the last at least year, so he can slot into that position. Sure, there'll be some growing pains, but it opens up the opportunity to trade Nail Yakupov for someone on the defensive side of the puck so that you have your centers there. Now you've got another elite winger who's got a chance to grow with these centers, and you're going to help yourself on the defensive side of the puck. That's why I think it's the best choice for Edmonton in that number 4 position. If Dubois doesn't go number 3, I could see them going Pierre-Luc Dubois. But since I took Dubois number 3 in Columbus, I'm going to go Puljujarvi number 4 to Edmonton. The 5th overall pick goes to the Vancouver Canucks, and oh boy, these guys are arguably the team inside the top 10 that needs the most help all around on their team. They had the second lowest goals for per game in the entire league this past season. They had the 4th lowest power play percentage. They had the 3rd fewest shots for per game and allowed the 2nd most shots against per game. This is another one with Vancouver where they need so much help. I think there's a high possibility, a high chance that this pick gets traded, because this is a pick that can bring in multiple pieces. You trade down in the 1st round, maybe trade out of the 1st round entirely. The farther down you trade, the more you can demand back for this 5th overall pick. And it's another one where like a Montreal or a Buffalo could possibly be interested in this pick to move up and take a higher offensive prospect. So I think there's a decent chance that Vancouver could start shopping this pick. Given the notion that they don't trade the pick, I like them to go offense, to go probably the best offensive player that is left available on the board, and it's a coin flip between two of them. But with the 5th overall pick, the Vancouver Canucks, I believe, will select Matthew Tkachuk, left winger from London of the OHL. Here's a guy that I feel can crack their roster. I think he's capable of playing really on either side, so you can move him on the left or the right, and somewhere in that top 9, and he's a guy that can develop. He can be one of your new superstars in Vancouver with the sort of outgoing superstars that they have now. But honestly, Vancouver, I think, is on the precipice of damn near a total rebuild. So you take Matthew Tkachuk if you keep the pick, but I think there's a great chance that Vancouver unloads this pick to bring in multiple pieces to help the multiple areas of their team that need some help. The 6th overall pick belongs to the Calgary Flames, and this was one of the easiest ones for me to decide who's going to go where. The Flames allowed the highest goals against average per game in the NHL this year. They also had the lowest penalty kill percentage. So the Calgary just has a huge problem keeping the puck away from and out of their net. Now, while I think there's at least a moderate chance that Calgary trades this pick, there's a possibility, they are in position to go on the defensive side of things, and I think they should take the best defensive defenseman prospect that is in there. So with the 6th overall pick, the Calgary Flames, I believe, will select Olli Juolevi, defenseman from the London Knights of the OHL, second consecutive pick from the London Knights. There was some slight temptation here to go goaltender, but picking a goaltender, especially high in the first round, is so risky. And I think Calgary needs to not adopt a concept of risk. I think they need to start adopting a concept of, fairly sure things. And I look at Juolevi, and I consider him to be a fairly sure thing in a few years in the NHL. So that's why I think they should take him at number 6 if they keep the pick. The number 7 overall pick belongs to the Arizona Coyotes. Now, the Coyotes had a lot of trouble on the defensive side of the game. They gave up the 3rd highest goals against per game in the league. They also had the 3rd lowest penalty kill percentage, so a lot of the same problems as had the Calgary Flames. However, Arizona also only generated the 2nd fewest shots for per game. So Arizona, there's some trouble here, and there's trouble on both sides of the puck. Quite frankly, I think there's a very high chance that Arizona tries to move this pick. If the right package comes along, I'm sure that they would trade it because, again, this is a team that needs help in multiple areas of their game. However, there is a player that I feel, if they keep the pick, would be an excellent choice for them. And with the 7th overall pick, the Arizona Coyotes, I believe, will select Jake Bean, defenseman out of Calgary in the WHL. The reason why I think Jake Bean goes in this position, and this is a big jump up, this is much higher than a guy like Craig Button had on his last Craigslist or in mock drafts. Usually Jake Bean is going, 5 to 10 slots below this. But the reason that I think Jake Bean is your best choice here is you take a defenseman. Jake Bean had 24 goals in the WHL this year. He's a guy that generates shots from the point. He's good. He's competent on the defensive side of things. Obviously, that's his position, but he's also got an offensive mindset, and he's a guy I think can step in for Arizona, possibly crack that top 6. Maybe not. He might be a couple of years away from that. But when he does, he's the kind of guy that they need. A guy that can generate shots from the point. He's a good puck mover. I think Jake Bean is excellent in this position. If Arizona keeps the pick, which I'm pretty wonky on, but if they keep the pick, I like Arizona to go Jake Bean, number 7 overall. The 8th overall pick belongs to the Buffalo Sabres, and quite frankly, the Buffalo Sabres need to find a way to score goals. They had the 5th lowest goals for per game this season, even after getting a guy like Jack Eichel. And, this has been a chronic problem for Buffalo over the last couple of seasons. I don't think there's a great chance that Buffalo trades this pick. I think it's actually a pretty low chance. When you're getting to the tail end of the top 10, there's less impact for potential teams to trade up. It's not no chance. I just think it's a low chance that they try to trade this pick. And honestly, they need offense. There's a player here that has dropped down. He's been slipping in this draft that I think is the perfect fit for Buffalo on the wing. And with the 8th overall pick, the Buffalo Sabres, I believe, will select Alexander Nylander, left wing, right wing from Mississauga of the OHL. He can play on either side of the wings. He's a guy that you want to get in there playing with Jack Eichel as quickly as humanly possible. Because if you develop chemistry between Alex Nylander and Jack Eichel, you are going to have a hell of a 1-2 combination on a top line and a top power play unit. That's why I like Alex Nylander to go 8th to Buffalo. The 9th overall pick belongs to the Montreal Canadiens, and I think this is a great gift for my Habs, to be perfectly honest. We all know why they're here, but, Montreal is a team that is in desperate need of somebody to put the puck in the back of the net. Now, Montreal is the only team inside this top 10 who did not finish in the bottom 5 of any of these stat categories that we've been talking about. Goals for, goals against, shots for, shots against, power play, penalty kill. They were outside the bottom 5 in all of these things, though they were only the 16th best team in terms of goals for per game, and they only had the 25th ranked power play in the league, so it was just barely outside the bottom 5 in terms of power play. Again, low chance I think Montreal trades this pick. I don't think there's a great reason to. I mean, you could potentially trade down for the player that I ended up having them taking at number 9. I think he would still be available in a few picks. So, I mean, if you want to try to swing a deal there to move down 5 or 6 spots or something like that and still get the player you want and be able to bring in another pick or two, I mean, go for it if you think the deal is there. But I think there's a pretty low chance that they trade this. With the 9th overall pick, the Montreal Canadiens, I believe, will select Tyson Jost, center from Penticton of the BC Hockey League. The reason that I like this is Jost, I mean, he put up huge numbers. Granted, it's in the BCHL, which is not, I mean, it's not really the level of junior hockey, and it's not really the level of what these like top prospects are playing over in Europe. But Tyson Jost is a guy, he's got a little bit of size to him. He's still got some growing to do, but he's got offensive flair, and that's what Montreal needs, especially up the middle. So that's why I like them to go center, and I think Tyson Jost is the best prospect out there for them. So I like them to go Jost at number 9. And we're going to round out with the 10th overall pick, which belongs again to the Colorado Avalanche. Now, Colorado, the only category where they finished inside the bottom 5 was in terms of shots against per game, where they allowed the 3rd most in the NHL this past season. One more time, I think it's a pretty low chance the Colorado trades this pick. I mean, Colorado was relatively competitive for the playoffs up to a certain point, so I don't think Colorado has a bad team. In fact, I know they don't have a bad team. They just have a team that kind of needs to perform a little bit, and a team that needs to be better on the defensive side. And who better to take in that position than a guy that has been in multiple places compared to a Brent Seabrook. With the 10th overall pick, the Colorado Avalanche, I believe, will select Dante Fabro, defenseman from Penticton of the BCHL. One more time, it's the BCHL, it's not the same as junior hockey, but at the same time, this is a guy that has been compared favorably to one of the best defenseman in the NHL in terms of Brent Seabrook. So why not? Why would you not take a flyer on a guy? He's going a little bit lower in most mock drafts that I've seen. So, I mean, if there's a deal to move down a couple of spots and pick up like a 3rd rounder or something like that, then sure, go for it. But you might as well take him at 10 because some other team is probably going to take him at 12 or 13. So you might as well jump ahead of the game. I think Colorado goes defenseman. I like Dante Fabro's overall game to fit the Avalanche better than other prospects that are there. That's why I like him to go 10. So there we go, folks. There's the top 10 of the Bridgewater's Finest mock draft for round 1 of the 2016 NHL Entry Draft. We'll go over it one more time. Toronto at number 1, I like to select Austin Matthews. Winnipeg at number 2, I like to take Patrick Laine. Columbus at number 3, I like to go slightly off the board and take Pierre-Luc Dubois. Edmonton at number 4, I like to take Jesse Puljujarvi, and I think they'll feel pretty good about Puljujarvi dropping to them at 4. Vancouver at number 5, I like them to take Matthew Tkachuk. Calgary at number 6, I like them to take Olli Juolevi. Arizona at number 7, I think goes off the board a little bit to take defenseman Jake Bean. Buffalo at number 8, I think are going to be elated with the fact that Alex Nylander dropped to them at number 8. Montreal at number 9, I like to take Tyson Jost. And Colorado at number 10, I like to take Tyson Jost's teammate, Dante Fabro. All right, folks, that's going to do it for the Saturday, May 14th edition of the Bridgewater's Finest 2016 NHL Playoffs podcast. So we don't have any games in the league tonight. Take your well-earned rest from at least one game pretty well every day of these playoffs. So get your rest. On Sunday, the Western Conference Final will open in St. Louis as the Blues play host to the San Jose Sharks. That's it for me, Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter. Saturday's in the books. Thank you very much for listening, and we will see you again on Sunday.